Alright, so welcome to lesson one here, ladies and gentlemen. And what we need to first understand is that technically the bender that I've created is, I'd say, about 90% right. But in order for us to really rig it and add a lot of different control here, is we actually have to add a couple extra items, of which we're going to go ahead and do in this lesson. And again, right off, I can tell you that we're definitely going to need a little bit more control over the eyes. If I was to go ahead and rig this now, it's just not necessarily going to work because there's no blink in the actual model. So we need to add a blink inside of or for Bender's eyes here. And the easiest way for me to go ahead and do that is, if you've ever seen the cartoon, whenever he blinks or whenever he makes an angry expression, that piece of geometry is actually black. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're just going to simply use some NURBS spheres here for what are going to be the eyelids. So let's just jump over here into our front view here, and I'm just going to go ahead and drag out a NURBS sphere here. Or I mean, we can always go ahead and do this, in the perspective view as well. We just have to go ahead and make sure that we rotate this correctly, just making sure that this edge is going to be in the front here, because if not, it's not going to open and close correctly. Okay, so we have to rotate it 90 degrees in X and in Y here. So okay, we'll just go ahead and open this a little bit just so I can see exactly the opening here, so I know exactly where to go ahead and place it. Okay, so let's just go ahead and scale this down here. And it's important that you don't clear the history or freeze the transformations or center the pivot on this, because we need to, whenever it comes to a later lesson, we're actually going to have to connect a an attribute to all this channel box information, and so we can't really clear the history or anything on these NURBS spheres. So we'll just go ahead here and create one, and we'll go ahead and put this over this eye here. We just need to make sure that we scale it down so it's going to be basically right up against the eye. Okay, placing it's just going to take a little bit of work. Okay, so we just have to go ahead and scale this up a little bit here. Okay, go ahead and move it back. And let me go ahead and close this just to make sure it's going to be as close to the eye that I want it. Okay, just make sure that I do the top here as well. Okay, just make sure I move this over, scale it up just a touch. Probably go over this way just a little bit. And scale it up just a little bit more. And that looks fine. Maybe not on the bottom part there, so let's go ahead and have to move that down a little bit. Okay, that looks good. And I'm just going to go ahead and open this up. And I'm only going to open it up to where you can see that it's not necessarily going to pinch behind the actual eye main geometry part. I just want to try to get that close enough so that I know exactly where it is, and I'm going to be able to select that whenever I go to actually connect those attributes to the rig controllers or the eye controller that we're going to be doing. So now we need to go ahead here and create another NURBS sphere. We can't necessarily duplicate this one because it's not going to give us the channel box attributes that we need. Okay, so we'll just come up here and do the same thing. Just rotate this 90 and 90 in the X. Okay, so we'll go ahead here and just go ahead and scale it down, making sure that I'm going to hit 3 on my keyboard so that it's going to, fit properly around the eye. And I can always take into consideration the channels of the attributes on the other one here. So it just, 0.154. So just making sure that this is going to be 0.154. 0.154. And we may need to go ahead and scale that up after we go ahead and get this done properly, and that's okay. Go ahead and just try to place this correctly, and I'm just looking just to make sure that there's really no geometry sort of shining through here or pinching through the actual model. And that's where you sort of just got to be careful. Okay. and that's looking fine. So we just can go ahead here and open up the eye a little more there, just making sure that it's going to be laid out in the same manner that the other one is here. Okay, so we'll go ahead here and adjust our end sweep. So now we're going to have eyelids for both the left and the right eye. And taking a look at our channel blocks here, I want to go ahead and just make sure that, okay, go ahead and delete that one off. Make sure that we rename these. So this is going to be the left eyelid, and this will be the right eyelid. And we'll just go ahead and just drag these into our Bender main, and this is just our geometry group basically. Okay, and like I said before, the key here is we don't want to, freeze the transformations in center of the pivot, because if we did, then we're not going to be able to connect these attributes to our eye controllers later on in the lesson. So for now, this is basically what we need to go ahead and actually start beginning to go ahead and rig Bender. So in the next lesson, we'll come back and continue working.